Welcome back. It is the morning after the night before, so to speak. But last night we made good progress. I've got the shot back in, I've got the side covers and bits back on, so that's all looking good. Today though, I'm going to do cam belts, which, even though it probably isn't particularly difficult, I've never done before, so I'm a little bit cautious about it. But I've made all the preparations. I had pasta for dinner last night, I've prayed to the spaghetti gods, and more importantly, I'm going to read the manual. So we're going to crack on with that and hopefully not have valves hitting pistons by midday. I've set the timing up so that I'm in the right position to take the cam belts off. You can see through the window I've got that little pin lined up with the timing mark on the flywheel through my new sight glass. There is actually two timing marks, one for the horizontal cylinder, one for the vertical. For this one we set it for the horizontal cylinder. We then come round this side and we check that that alignment mark lines up with this mark on the clutch cover. We then double check that the timing marks here line up with the marks that say horizontal, and then on the back cylinder the equivalent timing marks line up there and little V that says vertical. So all of that lines up. So my next job is to put a big nut on, a big spanner 22 on the big hex, 12mm on there. I can undo the tensioner. That will give me some slack in the belt. I'm forgetting what I'm saying. And then I can remove that belt, then remove that belt, and put the new ones on, and then tension them up. Simples. That's the old belt off and the old lock nut discarded. And then I've got the new belt on. This one was a little bit awkward because that cam likes to ping off a little bit. But obviously with having the marks in, it's pretty easy. So what I've done for now is I've just put a bit of tension on them just so they're not going to flail around too much. And then, according to the manual, if I turn it over a few times, it'll bed the belts in so they're running sort of in the right place on the rollers and everything, and then recheck the tension. Because I don't have the proper Ducati tensioning tool, or a version of it, the other way of doing it is to adjust this tensioner here by undoing the new lock nut and with the 22mm spanner adjusting that, and it's eccentric and that adjusts the tension. And what I should be able to do in here is move this 45 degrees, and I can move it a bit more than that, so we've not got enough tension yet. And the second way, they say, is about 5mm. That is more than 5mm. So I shall adjust that one, then move the vertical cylinder to its top dead centre and do the same on that. That's the tensioning done on the horizontal cylinder. You can see that we've got a measured 5mm and about 45 degrees there, and that's on the top dead centre stroke on that cylinder. The nut is torqued up, 26 Newton meters according to the book. So now I have to put it so that the horizontal cylinder, vertical, horizontal, why do I keep getting them mixed up? Anyway, got to put this one onto top dead centre, so I've got to move the crank 270 degrees, and then I can do the tension on this one. Final check over for a bit of paranoia. I've got the timing mark on the inspection cover in the right place. That timing mark lines up. They line up. They line up. So we're okay there. I've double checked the tension on them. I'm happy with that. I've got the nuts torqued up. I can put the covers back on, and that is cam belts done. As you can see, I've got the battery box back on and the belt covers and bits. And now it's time nearly to put oil in it. But first, I need an oil filter. So I've got my new oil filter, and I tend to fill them up with oil first and just give them a few minutes for it to soak into the filter material. And I'm using, unsurprisingly to anybody who knows me, Motul 300V 1550. Even though the manual for these bikes actually says 1040, talk to any Ducati dealer and they will tell you they actually want 1550 in them. So that's what it's having. So the oil filter, the level's going down in there. It just means it doesn't have to prime up. Saves a bit of time getting oil around the system. So I shall screw that in and then pour oil in the bike. And hopefully it'll stay in the bike. Look at that lovely green 300V through that lovely clear sight glass. So that's got some oil in it. It will need topping up later when we've given it a run round. What else have I done? I've put the rear sets and bits back on that I'd taken off when I had the bike on axle stands. I've put the airbox back on. I inspected down the holes so we don't have any grommets missing. These are now fitted nice and snug and correctly and nice and square. It was actually the grommet that sits here that disappeared down there. So I've reattached it, but I've put a smear of like silicone adhesive around it so that it'll actually stay there. I've also filled it up with coolant. Again, that will need double checking when we've run it. So yeah, it's beginning to look like a proper motorbike, this. Time for a lunch break, I think, and then after lunch I shall change the fuel filter, and then we might actually be in danger of running it. Now that we're nearing the time when we'd actually like to start the bike, and I keep saying we when I really mean I. Anyway, I need to change the fuel filter in it. So, the first thing I'm going to do is, with my sucky, I'm going to empty as much of the fuel out of it as I can get out, and then I'm going to lay out a load of rags and bubble wrap and stuff, and turn the tank upside down and start raging the fuel pump out of it. So there we have it, a big hole in the tank. And a fuel pump, so I just need to change that fuel filter. So I'll just undo a couple of clips, pop a new filter in, and yes, I am using a mobile phone while I've got a petrol tank open. Trust me, the spark potential in a phone is so incredibly small that realistically it's not a problem. So take that, health and safety. Meh. That's the tank all finished now. The O-ring that seals the fuel pump, which I have the old one here, probably due to it being immersed in fuel for many years, it's slightly expanded. It could just be that as I've pulled it out, it's obviously pulled it a little bit. That really did not want to go back in, so luckily I'd ordered a new one, which was still really awkward to fit, but it's in. I've got some fuel in there now, and it is not leaking, so that is a very good sign. The little pin here that locates into the front of the airbox and into the frame, there's two screws, that is the polite way around, 2 screws that hold that in, and I've re-Loctited those. As I have been told, they have a bit of a tendency to fall out into the front cylinder. So all that's done. I just need to put it back on the bike. That's the tank near enough refitted. I've just got a hammer wedged under the back so that I could connect the pipes a little bit easier. We've got like just an overflow vent, a supply and a return pipe. A lot of Ducatis of this generation had quick release connectors, but this one doesn't. The fuel pump has been changed by the previous owner, but I don't know whether that's because of a specific model year thing with Ducati, or whether it's just because he's got a different fuel pump in it. Not that it matters as long as it works. All that's reconnected. So in a minute I'll just take the hammer out, drop that down, put a battery on it and make sure it actually primes up properly. A quick battery voltage check. Yep, we're over 12 volts. I might, as I put it on the bike, I might just stick it on charge for a few minutes just to top it up, because we don't want to damage the sprag clutch by not being able to turn the engine over fast enough, and I will be turning it over a bit before I put any sparks to it to get some fuel, some oil around it all. I've just strapped the battery on. I haven't charged it yet. I can't wait. I'm just going to flick the ignition on, check the neutral light and oil pressure light are wired the right way around, and make sure no fuel pees everywhere. So hopefully something will happen. Right, the fuel pump primed. So a quick look under there. It's not wet, so that's a good start. And then if I... That's the neutral switch working, because I can just dog it in and out of gear. Woo! Fuel pump sounds alright. So the next job is I'm just going to charge it up a bit, bolt a few extra little bits together. I've put the air tubes on already. And then we can do the spinny over and see what happens. I've just disconnected the ignition pickup because I actually don't want the bike to start. Double check and actual mechanical check the bike is in neutral, because I'm going to press the big starter button and I want to see the oil pressure light go out. Now, I do expect this to take a little while because there's no oil anywhere in the system, so bear with me. I shall come back to you when we have some oil pressure. Thought I'd better have a quick check around the other side, and at least we know the oil pump's priming because the oil levels drop right down. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to top the oil back up, and then we've got more chance of actually getting some oil pressure. Right, I've topped the oil up, so let's see if we get any oil pressure action this time. Woohoo! Woohoo! Right, I've double checked the oil level. Now that I'm happy that we've got oil pressure, so we've got oil around everything, I've reconnected the ignition pickup. I've attached the side stand cut-off switch, and the side stand is now up. It's a slightly stupid system that means you can't start your bike unless you're sat on it, or you're on a paddock stand. So I'm going to try and see if I can wire that into the neutral switch at some point before I put the bodywork on. But now what I'm going to try and do is actually start the bike. Now we are absolutely stone cold. As you can see, I'm touching exhaust pipes. It's stone cold. I'm sure plenty of people claim that when they're not. So what I'm going to do is just press the start button, hopefully it'll start, run it for a few seconds, turn it off, check all the fluid levels again. If everything's okay, I'll start it and run it up so it's got some temperature in it. So here goes. She's running. I've had a good look round everything. I've double checked the oil level. I've actually topped it up a tiny bit. I've checked around the rocker covers. I've checked all around the side covers and bits. Everything that I've touched, I've been around and double checked it to make sure we've got no weeps or anything. The water level's good, the oil level's good. So now we can run it and get a bit of temperature into it. I tend to come and stand outside the garage just because it gets a bit fumy otherwise. I've got the fan running to help clear a little bit of it, and then just every few seconds or every minute or so just wander in. There's nothing dribbling on the bench. Check the radiator is just beginning to get warm. That is the best sound motorbikes make. Woohoo! So, I'm going to call that a pretty successful day. The bike is running. It's not covered the bench in bits of engine and oil and water and unpleasantness like that. So that's always a nice thing to find. There is a few little jobs left to do. I'm going to try and work out how to get the side stand switch to loop into the neutral circuit so that you can actually start it and warm it up without having to be sat on it, because that's just a faff. I've got to change the rear brake light bulbs,
and torque up the rear wheel bit when it's off the paddock stand. But for now, I'm going to go out on my push bike and enjoy my one exercise a day. So we'll see you next time.